All right, today on episode 474 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast, we get a chat with Vaughn Carrick and Bryan Borreson about the Ivy in Varley, a brand new restaurant and cocktail bar that is located right in downtown Salt Lake City. We get to talk about the motivation that they had to open them up, the obstacles that they had to overcome because they opened them up right in the middle of a pandemic, and what patrons can expect when they visit. Hey, the Ivy is located at 55 West, 100 South, and the Varley is conveniently located right next door.
But before we get into that conversation, we should probably introduce ourselves.
Probably.
My name's Chrissy Hollifield.
Hey, how you doing, Chrissy? I'm Chris.
All right, how you doing over there, Chris?
Hey.
Long time no see. Thanks for joining us, you guys. If you're a longtime listener of this podcast, you know what it's about, and welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, you may be wondering what it's all about. Well, Chris and I are here every week with a brand new episode of the show where we showcase awesome people in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the surrounding areas. We get to talk to business owners, authors, tattoo artists, restaurant owners, breweries, distilleries, food truck owners, really anyone that might have a cool story to share.
And like I said at the beginning, on this episode, we get to talk to Vaughn and Bryan because they have a cool story to share about the Ivy in Varley, a brand new restaurant and cocktail bar that is located right in downtown Salt Lake City. And we also got to go down a few other rabbit holes. We got to talk about Soundwell. We got to talk about some events that they put on or currently put on.
So much.
Bonanza, Reggae Rise Up.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
So we get to talk about all that in this episode. It was a fun conversation. Let's get into that conversation. Thanks so much for listening. Here we go. When you guys reached out to me, you were mentioning a new restaurant, cocktail bar, whatnot, opening up in downtown Salt Lake City, or it's already opened up, the Ivy in Varley, right? These are both brand new restaurants, cocktail bars. How long have they been open now?
So we, I guess kind of like right as COVID hit, Bryan and I kind of come from a concert and kind of beverage side of things. And so right as, COVID hit, we kind of were sitting there, sitting on our hands, basically just trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And one of our kind of long-standing plans that we've kind of always had in the back of our minds was to kind of get more into the hospitality side and just kind of create some, some different experiences in Salt Lake City. And Bryan pulled me in, and I think it was June or maybe it was May, and to kind of look over a couple spaces. And, we weren't doing anything at the time. And we ended up, spending the next, 5-6 months. I think we ended up opening up Varley over Halloween weekend. And then Ivy followed soon after that, right after the New Year. So January 7th and 8th was our opening weekend.
I want to go back just a little bit. You mentioned you were looking at places or spaces back in like May or June of last year. Nothing was going on. It's like why the rest of us were all like, oh my gosh, there's this pandemic going on and freaking out. You guys just took the bull by the horns and said, hey, let's make lemonade, right? We got lemons here.
We're like running away from buildings and you guys are running towards them to rent them.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good quality or a bad one, but we just kind of just the way we are. We like to say that we're kind of crackheads in a weird way. If we're not doing something or keeping busy, it's kind of detrimental to our health in a weird way. So the concert industry is so fast paced and nonstop, and Bryan and I were like, well, if we're not doing that, we need to shift our gears and do something else.
That's right, because your complete concert industry, that slipped my mind just right now too, now that I'm thinking about it. Wow, so your whole industry, you were involved in the entertainment, live music, all of that completely shut down for you. I mean, what was your first thought when that happened?
It's funny. Well, not funny, but we were we have our largest music festival we do called Reggae Rise Up, which is in Florida. We have one here in Utah as well, and then also one in Vegas. But we were about a week away from actually, I think we were flying out the next day to go down and start setting up our Florida festival, which is about, 15,000 people a day. And everything kind of started to hit. The NBA started to shut down. South by Southwest started to go. And we're obviously not on that scale, but we were, we kind of had to start follow suit. So yeah, it was definitely a stressful time for us. And then, Bryan with Soundwell can kind of touch a little bit more on how we were feeling just on a local side.
Yeah, it came at us quick. We actually, just to touch on Vaughn's story there is we had somebody that was actually boarding the plane coming from Los Angeles, and he was told, we called him and told him to get off the plane because this thing had canceled or had postponed at that point. And so it just, it came really quick at us. And I think we just, after our quick state of depression, we, in March, we shifted gears pretty quick in April. So, which was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I'm looking back over the last year. I obviously listened to a lot of podcasts doing a podcast. So you hear all these stories of some of these people that took 2020, they didn't let it hold them back. And, I think some of us are looking back now and saying, gosh, because in your case, the entertainment industry is shutting down. And then you're kind of trying to venture with the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry. I don't know how you weren't, I would have been nervous as all can be.
I love it because it feels like you're just doing it kind of off season, right? Like you're going into Park City to figure something out in the middle of summer. You're just doing some off season adjustments, and this is like actually a really good time to do it, I would think.
Yeah, literally. Brian, and I think just it might have been yesterday actually, we were kind of just talking about how, had the festivals happen or had our just normal lives with our everyday show schedules and stuff that we're constantly just kind of chasing around. Had that been going on, we probably wouldn't have had Ivy or Varley opened up for, till 2022.
Oh yeah. I gave you all that extra time. Definitely.
Yeah. It's been a blessing for us when we all come out at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the menu at all these places. Gosh. I mean, cause I'm sure, especially with them just barely opening up here, really within over the last six months or so for both of them. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have not been to either one of them. I'm looking at the Varley website. I mean, this looks like a beautiful cocktail bar.
Here's what I want to know. If one were to visit the Varley or the Ivory, what is the thing that someone should try? That's got to be a really tough question, but someone's in town for a day and wanted to stop by. What should they try?
I think I can jump in on that one. Being so involved in the menu myself, I would say that everything's great, but that's not the question. So I would start with the Thai coconut curry mussels and share that. It's just a really, really savory but spicy kind of dish to get you started. And then I would finish, or I would head to an entree and go with the sweet potato gnocchi and then finish it off with the Oreo cheesecake. And I think you would feel pretty good there.
Was this at the Ivy?
This would be at Varley.
At Varley.
That might be like my favorite meal ever.
Wow.
Even the mussels, those are like my 4 favorite words.
Looks like I got to take you out on a date now.
Yeah.
The kitchen, we actually share the same kitchen with Ivy. So the spaces are next door to each other.
Oh, okay.
Ivy's menu is definitely more robust, with kind of Varley being like the sister bar that shares some of the menu.
Gotcha.
That's kind of cool that they share a kitchen. So, I mean, it was easy to kind of combine the two and have a couple of different
ventures at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of one location-ish.
Definitely. I think it worked out for us in the sense that we ended up opening up Varley first. So Varley being smaller and starting with like a smaller menu, it really kind of gave us the ability to just kind of start working through a few of like the menu items and even just like with staffing and all that before we really kind of unleashed everything at Ivy.
So what do you guys do normally, like day to day with everything? Are you guys kind of working more behind the scenes, or do you get out and kind of do you ever get out and like do any of the cooking or waiting tables or anything?
I'm at the restaurant most days, living inside I'm not on the kitchen line. We've got a great team back there. We've been fortunate to find some really, really strong assets in our kitchen, and but I'll be running the day to day on most of that stuff. And so I'm pretty much living in there at the current time. This is actually a nice little break I'm missing a little dinner rush. So it's kind of nice.
Are you guys
We're happy to help.
Are you guys getting busier now? Are you noticing things are kind of picking up a little bit?
We've seen a lot of people interested in checking this out, enjoying both concepts and really kind of enjoying the experience that we're really trying to create on 100 South there, where you can eat at Ivy and then go grab a cocktail at Varley or vice versa. So it's really, we're seeing that continue to build up, and the weekends have been pretty busy. The weekdays are pretty consistent so far. But yeah, we're really excited about the feedback that we've been receiving too. So
I was just wondering kind of, people are getting back out there, with everything with COVID, getting back out and, spending money, going to restaurants and letting loose and having fun, right? Because, I'm sure a lot of those places were kind of hit hard for a little while there with not a lot of traffic, not a lot of business.
Because it is a new place, obviously, I think that there's a lot of interest in just like that kind of initial honeymoon phase with a lot of people, which I think has helped us during these times. Maybe outside of COVID, or if we'd been kind of opened up before COVID, I don't know if that would have continued through that, but we've been real fortunate to get a lot of attention from everybody in Salt Lake City right now.
All right, we're going to take just a couple of minutes of your time right now and talk to you about one of our awesome sponsors. I love talking about them. Hey, UtahMarijuana.org is your number one spot for all things medical marijuana, medical cannabis, CBD, and THC. I want to give a shout out to Tim Pickett. I don't know if you guys remember when we chatted with him back on episode 420. We found out all about the medical marijuana program here in Utah, and now UtahMarijuana.org is a sponsor of this podcast, and I am so grateful for that. So UtahMarijuana.org's team of medical cannabis experts, they make getting your medical card super easy from your first office visit to navigating the state card application and beyond.
With over 20 compassionate and highly skilled qualified medical providers ready to help you find relief, you won't have to search for a doctor willing to recommend cannabis treatment. The patient experience team at UtahMarijuana.org is dedicated to helping you get all the way through the process so you can get your medicine legally. And right now, they're offering an exclusive discount to I Am Salt Lake listeners. Use the code GREEN25 for $25 off your first visit.
Hey, and if you're in the West Valley City area, check this out. They have a location located at 3615 West, 1987 South, Building 8. It's actually right across the street from Beehive Pharmacy. So depending on where you're located at in the valley, they have a location just for you. Hey, isn't it time that you took control of your own health? UtahMarijuana.org. Feel better. And then you guys do Soundwell as well, right? That's located right there downtown.
Yeah, so Soundwell, Bryan, kind of where Bryan and I had originally kind of started was, I think I probably got in the concert industry and kind of just like throwing parties and stuff like early on in high school and in college. And then shortly after that, I kind of started my own thing. And Bryan was over there used to be the hotel, which Bryan, I'll let you kind of jump in on that.
Yeah, we've been there and we've been competing against each other for events for the early part of our career. I think it was like early, like 2007 to 10, we were kind of working against each other, and I basically courted Vaughn and said, let's stop doing this. Let's start working together. Took him about 7 years to really kind of take the bait, I guess.
Was it like a good old fashioned rivalry?
Not so much a rivalry. Not so much. I like to think that
friendly rivalry.
I like to think that Vaughn was a lot stronger in that category than I was, but we had a lot of similarities, and a lot of our vision was really put together. And so I was very interested in just all the things that he was doing, because he was creating such great events in all these different areas. And he's really great with the people that he works with and everything. So it was very intriguing to kind of get us going.
And what's funny about that is, it took him a while to kind of convince me to join. And then once I had kind of joined forces with him, then it took me a while to convince him to transition from kind of the nightclub stuff at Elevate and switch it to Soundwell and turn it into like a full-fledged concert venue and really kind of get out of that, just the weekend warrior type mentality. And try to cater to, kind of up-and-coming artists and in that, 600 cap size range of talent. And, it's been, we're coming up on 2 years or 3 years, Brian.
Well, we took a year off, so 2 years.
So, and it looks like you got live music still going on here at Soundwell, which is great.
Yeah, I think, it's definitely, without having live music, it's, for us, that's such a piece of our lives. And so it took us a while to kind of get to this point, but we were very happy to, and kind of nervous to open up again to the public with everything that was going on, and just, hoping that we could kind of still provide that experience while, doing it safely and, within kind of the health guidelines. And I want to say it was like November, we did our first event with an artist called named Satsang, who flew down and just did a acoustic set. And it was amazing. Like, people literally were walking out crying afterwards, just because they were just so happy to just be out, and seeing live music again. And so after that success, we've really focused on trying to, build up some of the local acts and bring in a couple, touring acts that are coming in and just, doing a socially distanced show with about 100 to 120 people that are all spaced out and, be able to have a couple drinks and kind of have an intimate experience with an artist instead of, a packed house with, 600 people kind of shoulder to shoulder.
Man, it's like finally concerts that old people like me want to go to. Everyone stay away from me. Give me my drink and let me listen to some music.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Wonderful.
I think there are some, takeaways that we've learned from this, depending on the type of show and who it is. But I think that we will kind of try to mix in some of that, seated, more socially distant type stuff, because I think people really do enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now, are you doing live music at all at Varley or the Ivy?
So we program Varley Wednesday through Saturday with just DJs.
Cool.
And that's our goal with that is really just the energy and the atmosphere. We're not necessarily, selling tickets like we would at Soundwell. So they're definitely different in that regard. But I think we have a pretty solid lineup with some cool music to kind of keep the energy up.
Now, how do you guys keep it all together? I mean, it seems like you got 10 million projects going on.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, how can we? I'm even trying to keep them straight in my head,
like
and you're actually doing them all.
And you probably got more projects coming down the pipeline that you're thinking about doing. So it's like, what? And you guys seem like pretty chill people. You don't seem super stressed out.
Yeah, I have a saying. I mean, I've tricked my brain into believing that stress is not real.
I like that, though.
Teach me your ways.
Yeah, can you make that happen to our brains?
Trust me, I try to pound that vision home with all my staff and my team, because at the end of the day, I think we've been fortunate, and I think it's a fortunate situation where we've just gone through a lot of different situations in the event world that have they season you in a way. Because it's the one good thing about the event world is it's always different. There's never, you can have like the perfect plan and there's always something that comes in, whether it's weather or, an artist doesn't show up, or you're dealing with, some drunk guy or, whatever it may be. There's always something that kind of comes up. And, when you deal with that every day of your life, you kind of get a thick skin.
Well, it sounds like you might be a little bit like me, too. I've noticed that I'm like one of those people that really thrives on fires, like trying to put fires out, especially in the workplace, where it's like, oh, yeah, bam, I can do this. And then as soon as everything's really calm, I panic because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't just sit here and get paid. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I think are you looking for a job? Because I think you'd fit in. Nice.
Oh my gosh. Well, and like stress and anxiety and excitement are all actually kind of the same chemicals released. And so I was thinking about that as you were talking, how if you just kind of shift your perspective, you could just be really excited all the time.
You got a good angle.
Okay, it's a working theory, you guys. It's a working theory because I'm trying to trick myself into not being stressed too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's taken a while, but you can do it. I have faith.
Right on.
What about you, Brian? I mean, are you pretty relaxed and chill like Vaughn, or how do you handle your stress?
I like to think that I'm much cooler and more relaxed than Vaughn is all the time. I think he's a little high-strung personally.
Definitely.
Now, hey, I got a question. So Bonanza, were both of you part of Bonanza or just you, Vaughn?
Yeah, both of us were. Brian another side of our business together is Bryan handles all of the beverage and kind of the staffing for all of our music festivals.
Because you guys only did Bonanza 1 year, right? And then you had it planned the second year, and then like the state shut it down or something. What's the story there?
So we actually did 3 years, and it was the fourth year. Yeah.
Okay, so my bad there.
I think it took the first year really didn't count. I don't think really anybody knew about it, so it's okay to chalk that one off. But yeah, we really had this vision to put together an event that kind of had a multi-genre type feel with a camping aspect. And we found a great site up in Heber, Utah that, we were able to go up there, and it was an amazing setting, right on the backside of Jordan Dam. And, you had cabins that people could rent out, and, we camped, 250 campsites. And along with that, unfortunately came, the way that a lot of our laws and, everything work when you're doing special events really kind of hone in on the festival grounds themselves. They kind of treat that as the venue. And where we ended up getting in trouble is we didn't really include the campgrounds in that because, it was an all-age music festival. And once they left the music festival itself and went to the campgrounds, it was kind of, it was almost as if they were driving home and going home for the night. It was kind of out of our jurisdiction per se. And I think because they were so close to each other, we ended up crossing that line a little bit for people that that weren't as involved with it. If a city official came up and saw kind of some of that and they walked through the campgrounds, I think that alarmed them a little bit. And, nothing against Heber. We love it up there, but I still think that, it's us Salt Lake City boys coming up there was just a different experience for them. And, we learned a lot through that process, but at the end of the day, it was a bigger vision than I think that Heber was willing to accept. Let's just put it that way.
Do you plan on ever bringing it back, or is it kind of dead?
Us, no. We had some partners in it that we ended up kind of stepping away from. They may try and do something. I'm not sure if they're going to try and do it here or what their deal is, but Bonanza was awesome. I think that we definitely plan on trying to recreate something similar once, things get back to normal. But as it stands now, we won't be a part of Bonanza.
Because it always looked like a cool event. And it was always one of those events that I was like, man, I got to go check that out this year. And then the dates just didn't line up with, summertime gets so busy, you can't do everything. And then it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, Bonanza was cool. I mean, it was like going to Coachella, but going to, instead of having 100,000 people there, you would have 8,000 people there. Because, having the acts that we did in such a small environment was, it was a cool experience. And, we ended up kind of rolling that into our Reggae Rise Up brand. So we ended up taking, and putting our Reggae Rise Up festival up there, and same concept. It just really, and it's definitely a different crowd, so it fits a little bit better up there. But yeah, it was, and I think it was also more accepted. So yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Accepted? What, accepted by Heber City?
I think so. Yeah. I think that it's just a more mellow crowd at the end of the day. Okay. People listening to reggae versus, Wiz Khalifa or Odessa. It's just a different demographic. Different
energy.
Yeah, for sure.
In the room,
So yeah. Reggae Rise Up is still going on. And I mean, obviously once things get back to, quote unquote normal.
Correct. Yeah. We were lucky, to not have announced that festival. Kind of, I guess, normally we announce about a month after when COVID hit last year. So, we hadn't got that one up. But yeah, as soon as things kind of get back to normal, we plan on bringing it back for sure.
And you mentioned Florida, Reggae Rise Up in Florida. What's the connection to Florida?
I was actually dating a girl in Florida. So I was kind of going down there. And once I kind of experienced Florida and St. Pete, and just kind of the coastal culture, I really saw just like how big it was in Florida as far as the genre goes. And we decided we wanted to really expand it from Utah and kind of tour the brand. And, so I went down there and, we put on this event, and it was just one day. We actually did it at Raymond James Stadium, which is where the Tampa Bay Bucks play, and, went down there and everything was going well. Ticket sales were doing well, and we were all, kind of pumped on it. And, then all of a sudden we kind of started seeing some reports coming in, and we ended up having record rain in Tampa. Tampa rains all the time. So it's not like, especially during that time, it was right in the heat of hurricane season, which is pretty funny looking back on. Cause at the time I remember thinking people would say something to me about that. I was like, these guys, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm from Utah. We deal with snow and like, I'm not worried about a little rain, we're going to be fine. But I mean, it was like coming at us sideways. There was so much rain. There was, it was like a foot deep. I feel like we were just sludging through it, which, obviously wasn't, very conducive for a music festival. So they actually evacuated us into Raymond James Stadium because of a lightning warning for about an hour and a half. So, we had 3,000 people like in the hallways of Raymond James Stadium just sitting around waiting.
Oh, wow.
It honestly, it almost bankrupted us. I mean, there was quite a few people that were owed money. There was, luckily we were able to get like the artists paid. I remember calling Bryan, and he can probably give his side of the story because it was kind of this is really where Bryan and I really started working. But I think like a week before I was like, my bar manager has no idea what he's doing. I need you to get your ass on a plane and come down here. And Bryan, just being as strong and as, just committed and loyal as he is, he's like, all right, I'm there without any questions, showed up and tried to clean up the mess the best that, that we could. But yeah, it was 2014 was, to me, it's almost like, and it's just a date that I'll always remember, 9/27/2014, because it almost broke us. And, ironically enough, it's our largest event, and it's what, keeps us all afloat today and able to kind of give us the opportunities that we do at the current time.
So what made you want to try it again after that?
I just was very, in my heart of hearts, I knew that like Florida was a solid market. I mean, I knew that the way that like they responded, the way that the fans were, I knew that it was going to blow up. And yeah, sure enough, we went from, I think we sold 4,000 tickets that first year to now, this year we were on the way to doing about 17,000 people a day.
I think that's a good lesson for everyone listening.
Over 4 days.
Like, if you know you're onto a good idea, allow yourself one failure and then try it again.
Definitely. Sometimes I have 3 or 4 failures.
Yeah. Maybe 10. Who knows? Yeah. Just don't lose everything.
No, yeah.
But yet you don't get stressed out, man. Gosh.
Well, I think I kind of touched on that earlier. I think that those reasons like that I always can kind of fall back on that. Like, things are pretty shitty right now, but not as bad as 2014.
It's kind of nice to have that, right?
I think so. Now it's
like
it's easier visual. It's easier to sit in the chair now and say that. But back in the day, I don't know if I would have said that.
What advice would you guys give new business owners? Like, let's say somebody just barely opened a brand new business of their own. 1 or 2 pieces of advice. I mean, I guess you've already given a bunch of advice, but maybe you got 1 or 2 more tips. I don't know.
I think for me, in everything that I've done, it's definitely find a team around you. I think in everything that I've done, Joey Trum on this live night event side, has been my right hand through all this. Bryan on, the Realine Group, and, even on the Reggae Rise Up side and the festival side is, who's kind of really, those guys are the people that have, got me through and got us kind of to where we are. So to me, it would just be, really doing your best to try to find, loyal and, a strong team.
What about you, Bryan? Any advice to new business owners that you care to share?
Yeah, I mean, I would really agree with Vaughn on that. I've gone at this by myself. I've been trained under some people that I didn't really appreciate how they conducted their business. And I think it's just really finding people that share the same qualities that you do and try to work with them as opposed to trying to force something that doesn't fit. So, when it really comes down and you've got to make tough decisions, you're really in tuned with who you're working with.
Cool.
Yeah, man, get your posse.
Let's, we have a few standard Salt Lake City questions that we ask everybody that comes through here. So of course we got to ask you too. We have family and friends that visit us from time to time. They come from out of town. They're coming up from California or Florida or wherever. And they're saying, hey, show us around town. Show us around the city. Show us around the area. We all have those places we take them to. Where do you guys take people to and show off?
I mean, that's easy. I think you start with dinner at Ivy, maybe head over to Soundwell for a show. And then you can end at Varley, with a cocktail.
That actually would be an amazing night.
It's actually starting to happen more often, which we're very thankful for. It's interesting to see. So, but no, I think Salt Lake, I think there's a lot of places to offer, great experiences. Like, I love going to Whitehorse. I like going to Lake Effect, Valters. I mean, there's a lot of, great restaurants, and bars in the city.
What about you, Bryan?
Living downtown, I live right across the street from the little Edison drag that's being built up. I love that whole area with Beer Bar and Bar X right there. I think that's such a great area. And then obviously going down Main Street is really nice. If we're not touting our own, brands through the city, there's definitely some really, really strong, great operators. And one of the places that I do love to go is Current. So it's, that's just like kind of something a little bit more low key and for us. And so all of our stuff is really music driven, and it's nice to kind of jump into something that's not as music focused sometimes, just take a little break.
Yeah, a little ambiance shift.
What about,
dig it.
Would you change anything about Salt Lake City if you could change something, if you had that opportunity to change something?
I don't think so. I think, I've born and raised here. I've definitely jumped around a little bit, but I always make it back. I love Salt Lake through and through. I'm very proud to kind of be from here. I think that, we always want to try to give back to it and try to grow it and, provide different experiences. But when it comes to changing, I don't think I have anything that I would change. We have some new concepts and just a couple things that we would like to kind of bring to the city, looking in the future, but there's nothing that I would change.
Anything you care to share?
Unfortunately, not yet, but I will. I will soon.
No, you heard it here first. You heard it here first. What about you, Bryan? Is there anything you would change?
I'm kind of with Vaughn on this one. I like where the city is. I like the direction that it's heading, and I really love the scenes that are kind of being built up. Sometimes I wish if I was to change one thing, I think I'd request like more pockets of entertainment areas throughout the valley a little bit, just something, and not big, but just, some dining districts and things like that are a little bit more robust than just some of the strip mall kind of places that pop up throughout the south end of the valley and kind of into some of the other suburban areas.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it is cool to see people like you guys actually making that difference, though. If it wasn't for you guys, we would be saying, I wish somebody would do this here. So thanks.
You're welcome. We're happy to do it.
And then obviously I want to go down the address and stuff for Varley and the Ivy and stuff. But before we wrap this episode up, first of all, I want to thank the two of you for recording with us and coming on the podcast. But is there anything that you were hoping we would talk about that we didn't get a chance to? I know we just kind of skimmed the surface with a ton of stuff, but I didn't know if there was anything you wanted to specifically talk about.
Nothing on my end. No, I think we touched on it, and yeah, I appreciate, the time for sure.
Anything with you, Bryan?
No, I'm a fan of the podcast, and I'm just I'm happy to be on here and kind of chatting with you guys, and we're really excited about what we're bringing to our team, to the city, and so we're really excited about what's kind of coming up over the next few years.
Let's give the addresses for Varley and the Ivy again, since they're kind of your newer places. And then, I'll have all the social media links and the website links and stuff, with this, episode, show notes at iamsaltlake.com. Unless you guys want to rattle off some websites now, it's up to you. I just know you have a lot of links, so I don't want to make you rattle off a bunch of stuff.
Send us a table of contents. Well, not a table of contents. What is it? Like an index?
We could, actually.
That might not be a bad idea.
Can it be in Rolodex form, please? I would like that.
Varley is on 63 West, 100 South, and Ivy is right next door at 55 West, 100 South.
Very cool. Anything else? Well, Chrissy has a final question she asks everybody that comes through here, but anything else you want to talk to him about, Chrissy, before the final question?
Man, I think we did a good job getting a good overview. Thanks for talking to us. Yeah, there's just so many wormholes I could totally go into, but thank you guys for your time. It was really fun to kind of hear your story and how you grew this.
Yeah, hopefully we can have a drink together soon and do it in person.
Yeah.
That sounds like an awesome idea.
I love it.
I'm so game. Before we let you guys go, could you leave our listeners with a motto or a piece of life advice?
I think for me, I think doing everything with honesty. And, I think if you have your heart's in it and you are, at the end of the day, there's always going to be something or someone that you're going to upset or I guess maybe cause a conflict with or an issue with, I think. But as long as your heart's in the right place, at the end of the day, it always works out.
Yeah, and I would say really don't compromise on what your vision is on those things and really, find a way to make that work. And if it's something you're passionate about, really, just do not compromise on that. Obviously there's a ton of compromises to build things, but don't compromise on what your goals are and where you want to be and really put in the work. It will take you in a direction that it's supposed to take you.
Thanks again to Vaughn Carrick and Bryan Borreson for joining us on this episode of the podcast. All of the links and information to follow them can be found on our website at iamsaltlake.com and directly for this episode, iamsaltlake.com/474.
Hey, before we wrap up this week's episode of the podcast, I want to mention a couple of ways that you can support the podcast. First and foremost, make sure to leave us a review in Apple Podcasts if you haven't done so yet. Doesn't cost you anything. Just go on there, type up a few words, and tell us what you like about the podcast. You can say what you don't like about the podcast too, I guess.
Give us tips, man.
Yeah, but it lets us know you're out there. It lets others know what you think of the show. Or you can become a Patreon supporter. This is really easy to do too. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. It helps keep our lights on. Go to patreon.com/IamSaltLake and find out more about that. Let's get out of here, Chrissy. Let's do it. Let's go make dinner. Ooh. Hey, you guys have a great week. Get out and enjoy the city. Support local. And we'll see you next week on the next episode of I Am Salt Lake Podcast.
And good night, Grammy.